Hey ChatGPT, the Quran supports the existence of extraterrestrial life, aliens, citing verses interpreted to describe multiple Earths and heavens, galaxies, inhabited by diverse beings, including intelligent life. Is it true? Describe in 30 seconds, please.
Cleophy, the Quran contains verses that some interpret as suggesting the existence of multiple worlds or creations. For instance, verses like Surah Al-Baqarah 229 mention the earth and the heavens being created, and Surah Al-Mulk 67:3 talks about 7 heavens. While traditional interpretations focus on these as realms within God's creation, modern readers sometimes see them as implying the potential for extraterrestrial life. However, mainstream Islamic theology generally does not explicitly endorse the idea of aliens. Interpretations vary widely among scholars.
Okay, if there is extraterrestrial life, then why does mainstream Islamic theology not endorse the idea of aliens? What do they have in their minds? Reply in 30 seconds, please.
Cleophy, mainstream Islamic theology typically focuses on the teachings of the Quran and Hadith, which do not explicitly mention extraterrestrial life. Scholars may prioritize human existence and the relationship with God, viewing discussions of aliens as speculative. They often emphasize that the purpose of creation is to worship God, and any beings beyond Earth remain outside the scope of core religious teachings. Additionally, interpretations vary, and many theologians may consider the idea of aliens unnecessary for understanding faith and spirituality.
Thank you, ChatGPT. But there's another Kaaba, Beit al-Ma'mur, in the heavens, aligned with the one on Earth. If extraterrestrial beings exist, why wouldn't they follow the teachings of the Quran and Hadith? Allah states in the Quran, "And we have not sent you, O Muhammad, except as a mercy to the worlds." Quran 21:107. Shouldn't Muhammad, peace be upon him, be their prophet too? Please reply in 30 seconds.
The concept of Beit al-Ma'mur, a heavenly counterpart to the Kaaba, suggests a divine order beyond Earth. Some interpretations of the verse about Muhammad as a mercy to the worlds imply that his message could extend to all beings. However, mainstream Islamic theology holds that prophethood is specific to humanity, emphasizing the unique role of humans in worship and guidance. Scholars may argue that if extraterrestrial life exists, they would have their own forms of guidance appropriate to their nature and circumstances, distinct from human prophethood.
Thank you so much, ChatGPT. Let's dive deeper into this chapter together with Jack and Wilson. Hey everyone, before we get started, I noticed in my YouTube channel analytics that many of you watching aren't subscribed. If you could do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. It motivates me and helps the channel grow, so I can create more videos like the one you're about to see. Also, as some of you requested, my team has launched a website where you can read my books and find transcripts of all my videos in the form of small booklets. The link is in video description. We're working hard to produce informative videos daily, along with books and transcripts. I'd love your help in spreading dawah, calling to Allah's message. Please click the join button to show your support. Now, let's dive in.
All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're tackling something pretty unexpected, the possibility of extraterrestrial life, aliens, but we're looking at it from the perspective of the Quran.
Interesting, yeah.
We've got 2 main sources to dig into. We have Dr. Muhammad Khan's research paper. It's called Concept of Intelligent Extraterrestrial Life in the Quran. And then we've got this kind of fun snippet from a ChatGPT conversation.
Oh, wow.
Someone was asking it about aliens in Islam. It'll be interesting to see, a modern AI take, right?
Yeah, definitely. Comparing those two should be fascinating.
Right. So let's jump in. I gotta say, Dr. Khan's paper starts off strong. He quotes the Prophet Muhammad talking about sending peace to all righteous people, not just here on earth, but in the heavens too.
That's interesting.
What do you make of that?
Well, it seems like maybe the idea of life beyond Earth, it wasn't totally alien to early Muslims.
Right. It
Yeah.
was a concept they'd considered.
Yeah, it opens up this whole discussion about different interpretations.
Yeah.
And how even centuries ago, people were thinking about other beings way out there in the cosmos.
Makes you wonder if they knew something we didn't.
I know, right?
And speaking of early interpretations, the paper also brings up this guy, Ibn Abbas. He was a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, and apparently he believed in extraterrestrial life.
Oh, wow. Really?
But get this, he kept it a secret.
A secret? Why?
Well, the paper doesn't get into the specifics, but I mean, imagine having that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Something that could totally change how people see the world, but then choosing to keep it hidden.
Makes you think, like, what was going on back then?
I know.
Socially, intellectually. Was he scared of being, I don't know, ridiculed?
Right.
Ostracized for having these beliefs that were so different?
Like Galileo getting persecuted for challenging the whole Earth-centered universe idea.
Exactly.
So, all right, let's get to the Quran itself. What specific verses does Dr. Khan point to as, like, evidence for extraterrestrial life?
Well, one that really stands out is from Surah 42, verse 29. It talks about God creating the heavens and earth and dispersing dabatun within them.
Dabatun. Okay, and what's that?
It's an Arabic word, often translated as like beasts or living creatures.
Okay, so beasts. But does it mean, like, any living creature, or is it more specific?
Well, that's where things get interesting. The paper really emphasizes this point that dabatun, it suggests living, moving beings, distinct from angels or like inanimate objects.
Okay.
Which, are also mentioned in the Quran as worshiping God.
Right, okay.
So this points to dabatun being creatures with, a certain level of complexity, capable of movement and maybe even sentience.
So not just like rocks and stars praising God.
Exactly.
But actual creatures that are kind of similar to what we'd find here.
Yeah, exactly. And to make it even more interesting, the paper points out that dabatun doesn't include birds or angels because those are mentioned separately in the Quran. So that strengthens the argument that it refers to, maybe Earth-like life forms on other planets or celestial bodies.
That's wild. Are there any other verses that support this idea?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Dr. Khan also brings up Quran 65.1.
Okay.
It talks about God creating 7 heavens and a similar number of earths.
Oh, interesting. The 7 heavens. A lot of people think that means like 7 zones in space, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty common misunderstanding.
So what does it actually mean?
Well, Dr. Khan brings in scientific knowledge and different interpretations of the Quran. He argues that 7, in Arabic, it often symbolizes a large number, but not a specific one.
Okay.
And he believes heavens actually refers to galaxies.
Galaxies. Wow.
And get this, he even finds parallels between the Quran's description of how galaxies are created and what we understand from modern astronomy, how they form from this primordial gas cloud.
So the Quran might be talking about things that we're only just starting to understand with our technology.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. Dr. Khan also brings in a bunch of other verses to back this up, like 21.3, 41.1112, 51.47, and 71.1516.
Oh, yeah, those are great examples.
They talk about this creation of the heavens from like a primordial gas cloud and how they eventually all come together.
It really paints this picture of a universe that's way bigger and more complex than we might think at first.
I'm starting to see the connection between like these ancient texts and our modern scientific understanding.
Pretty awesome.
But it also makes me feel kind of, I don't know, insignificant. Like if the Quran's describing a universe with countless galaxies, where do humans fit in?
That's a totally natural reaction. Makes me think of that Carl Sagan quote
Oh, yeah.
from Pale Blue Dot, where he talks about Earth as this tiny little speck in the grand scheme of things.
Right, right.
But even though we're small, physically, the Quran says that our role in creation is still really important.
Of course, yeah. Humans are like the stewards of Earth. But if there are all these other intelligent beings out there, does that, I don't know, challenge the idea that humans are superior? Which, let's be honest, you see that sometimes in religious interpretations.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. And Dr. Khan dives right into that. He brings up Surah 17, verse 70. It states that humans are honored and preferred above many of God's creations.
Okay.
But, and this is key, it doesn't say above all of them.
So there's room for other beings to be just as significant. Yeah. Maybe in different ways.
Exactly. It's not about some hierarchy with humans at the top. It's about seeing the unique potential and purpose of all beings.
I like that. That leads to another thought, though. If there are all these intelligent beings out there, and they're worshiping God too, do they have their own prophets and scriptures?
Whoa, that's a great question.
Right. We should explore that. But before we do, there's one more thing in the research paper that jumped out at me. Dr. Khan actually says that the Quran predicts the discovery of extraterrestrial life. That's what he's saying. He sees this one verse, Surah 42.29, as a sign that this discovery, it's going to happen. It'll become clear to humanity.
Wow. So not just acknowledging the existence of extraterrestrial life, but predicting that we'll find it.
Yeah. Tell me more.
He believes God is encouraging us, to explore and discover all these amazing things in creation.
Makes sense.
And he points to verses like 55.33-3-4, where God challenges humans, pass beyond the regions of the heavens and the earth if you can.
I see. So like an encouragement to keep exploring space.
Yeah. Maybe even interstellar travel one day.
So we might actually meet aliens during our space exploration.
It's a possibility. He also mentions Quran 16.8, where God talks about creating horses, mules for transportation. And then he says he'll create things that humans have no knowledge of.
Like you haven't seen anything yet.
Exactly.
All right, I'm on board. But before we get too lost in the future, let's bring in that ChatGPT conversation.
Okay.
The one about aliens and Islam. It seems like someone was asking some pretty specific questions.
Yeah, it's a really interesting chat. This person, Cleophy, brings up Surah 21, verse 107. It says, Prophet Muhammad was sent as a mercy to the worlds.
To the worlds.
And they're wondering, does that include extraterrestrial beings?
It's a good question. And it takes us right back to that idea of other beings having their own prophets and guidance.
Right. And ChatGPT actually responds to that.
What does it say?
It says, well, some people interpret that verse as a broader message, like it includes everyone. But mainstream Islamic theology, they tend to focus on his prophethood for humanity specifically.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It does seem like a lot of the Quran's teachings are really tailored to, the human experience.
For sure. But it's important to remember that God's wisdom and mercy, they go way beyond what we can understand.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT actually suggests that if other intelligent beings exist, they'd probably have their own forms of guidance tailored to them.
Okay, I like that.
Like different paths up the same mountain.
Yeah, beautiful analogy. Hold on, though. There's one more thing from that ChatGPT conversation I wanted to ask about. They bring up this concept called Beit al-Ma'mur. What is that?
Oh, Beit al-Ma'mur. That's an interesting one. It's described as like a heavenly version of the Kaaba in Mecca.
Okay.
A house of worship in the heavens, and it's aligned with the Kaaba on earth.
So like a celestial Kaaba. Does that mean like there's a cosmic connection between Earth and other realms? And if the Kaaba is so central to Islamic worship, are there like extraterrestrial beings performing Hajj in space?
Those are some really imaginative questions.
I can't help it.
Well, it's fun to think about aliens going on Hajj. Beit al-Ma'mur's concept is a bit more, nuanced.
Okay.
It points to a bigger cosmic order and the possibility of these different realms being connected. But it doesn't say aliens have to do the same rituals as humans.
The Earth might not be the only place that's important. Maybe there are other worlds out there with their own ways of worshiping, their own ways of connecting with the divine.
Exactly. It's about the idea that God's creation is limitless. And our human perspective on faith and worship, well, it might be pretty limited too.
It is kind of mind-blowing. And it makes you realize, like, our understanding of the universe, even our own faith, it's always changing as we learn more. This deep dive has already been so thought-provoking.
It really has. And it's about to get even more interesting as we go deeper into these ideas.
I can't wait. So where do we go from here?
Well, let's circle back to that question about Prophet Muhammad, being a mercy to the world. ChatGPT gave us a balanced answer, but it really makes you think. If there are other intelligent beings out there worshiping the same God, wouldn't they need their own prophet?
Right, their own guidance.
It only makes sense, God wouldn't favor one species over another, especially if both can recognize and worship him.
It's like how different cultures develop their own unique spiritual traditions and ways of understanding God. Maybe those are like prophets for their specific context.
That's a really cool connection. It shows how diverse God's creation is. And maybe our human-centric view is a bit limited, We might not be the only ones thinking about faith and morality and purpose.
That is humbling. And it brings us back to that idea of humans not being the most superior beings. It's not about putting us down. It's about expanding our understanding of God's power.
Right.
And the scope of his creation.
Exactly. And this isn't even a new concept, right?
Yeah.
Remember Ibn Abbas, how he kept his beliefs about extraterrestrial life secret?
Right.
Maybe that was his way of dealing with a world that just wasn't ready for such a big idea.
Yeah. It reminds me that knowledge and understanding, they're always evolving. What might have been considered crazy in one time period could be totally normal in another.
For sure. Makes you wonder, are we about to have a similar shift? With all the advances in space exploration and us realizing how massive the universe is, could we be getting close to proving that extraterrestrial life exists?
That would be incredible to finally confirm something people have suspected for centuries.
I know.
And it makes those verses about God creating things we have no knowledge of even more interesting.
Absolutely. And it ties into the idea that the Quran, even though it was revealed so long ago, still has things to teach us today. It encourages us to be open-minded, and to explore different interpretations.
Speaking of interpretations, there's one last thing from that ChatGPT conversation I want to touch on. Remember how they mentioned Beit al-Mamur?
Oh, yeah.
Could you remind me what that is again and how it connects to all of this?
Sure. Beit al-Mamur is like a heavenly version of the Kaaba in Mecca.
Okay.
It's basically a house of worship up in the heavens,
Yeah.
directly aligned with the Kaaba on earth.
So a celestial Kaaba, I remember we talked about the possibility of other beings having their own forms of worship. Does this mean they're performing Hajj up in space?
Uh-huh. That's a creative thought.
I know, right?
It's fun to imagine, but the concept of Beit al-Mamur is a bit more nuanced. It points to this larger cosmic order and maybe a connection between different realms. But, doesn't necessarily mean aliens have the same rituals as humans.
No, it's more about acknowledging that Earth isn't the only special place. There could be other worlds out there, with their own ways of worshiping and connecting to God.
Exactly. It speaks to how limitless God's creation is, and how our human view of faith and worship, it might be limited.
It's like those pictures from the Hubble telescope, galaxies upon galaxies, as far as you can see. It makes you realize how much is out there that we just don't know or understand.
And it reminds us that there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to discover. Both of these sources, the research paper and the ChatGPT conversation, they've opened up some really fascinating paths to think about.
They have. It's been quite a journey so far. And even though we've covered a lot, I feel like we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to ponder about extraterrestrial life, how it fits into our beliefs and what it all could mean for humanity.
I agree. And that's what's so cool about exploring these topics. They make us think critically, expand our horizons, and embrace all those mysteries out there, the things we don't understand yet.
This brings me back to Ibn Abbas, and his choice to keep his beliefs secret. Makes you wonder what other knowledge might be out there, just waiting to be discovered or reinterpreted.
Maybe one day, knowing about extraterrestrial life will be as normal as knowing the Earth goes around the sun. And maybe, just maybe, that discovery will help us understand ourselves better, our faith, and our place in this huge, amazing universe.
I love that thought. It's a good reminder to always be open to new possibilities, to never stop asking questions, exploring, and looking up at the stars with, awe and wonder.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible. We've explored all these fascinating ideas from the Quran and a modern AI. We talked about the nature of creation, extraterrestrial life, and how that could change how we see ourselves and our faith.
And even though we don't have all the answers,
Right.
I think this has really encouraged us to think harder, question our assumptions, and be okay with the mystery of the unknown.
I agree. It's been a real privilege talking about all this with you. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be having this conversation again, but with even more knowledge and insights. Until then, I encourage everyone listening to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep looking up at those stars with a sense of wonder.
Yeah, it really has. And it's about to get even more interesting as we really dig into what all this means.
Okay, I'm ready. Where do we go from here?
Well,
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.